In the last century, a tourist from the United States went to visit a very famous Polish rabbi named Hafez Haim, and he was the author of several books that are still considered very helpful in ethical questions. Rabbi Haim actually lived so poorly that sometimes people were appalled at his conditions of life. Yet, having the opportunity to migrate to Israel, he chose to stay in Vilnius. So this tourist from the States goes and visits the rabbi's home, and realizing that the rabbi's home was one room full of books and nothing else. He says to the rabbi, "Rabbi, where is your furniture?" And the rabbi said, "Where is yours?" And the tourist says, "Mine? I'm only a visitor here." And the rabbi replied, "So am I." We have a president that regularly creates controversy. We had a president before him that was rather boring. They are opposites in the political spectrum, in personality, in style, in everything, I think, even the color scheme. We may safely say that they have nothing in common, but yet they do. Their office is transient. They both will one day be ex-presidents. Furthermore, one day they both, the most powerful men of the most powerful country in the world, will become manure. Both of them will feed green grass, and birds will nest in the trees that their bodies have helped to grow. Anyone who cannot take with them what they own, be that prestige or legacy or power or money or history, will surely leave this world the same way he came in, naked. It was clear to Jesus and to all the Jews that were listening that at the end, Augustus, emperor, with all his might, with all his armies, with all his power, and all his coins, was just a mortal man that could not possibly be compared to God. Augustus could sprint a small piece of metal with a rough and rather rough likeness of him, and spread such coin throughout his empire to enable people to pay taxes. But that was that. God, on the other hand, created the entire universe. In fact, all reality was created by him. The insulting coin, because remember, producing a coin with an image of someone who had declared himself divine within the temple precinct was blasphemy and violation of the Ten Commandments. With all that might that Augustus produced, while God was sovereign of the universe. The gospel tells us that the question was product of deceit. If Jesus said to pay taxes, he will demoralize the poor he was leading. If he said not to pay taxes, the Romans will have a reason to arrest him. So he returns the question to his questioners, just in the same way Rabbi Chaffetz did. You who are listening decide, whatever belongs to Caesar, give back to him. Send back his armies. Send back to him his local lackeys. Send back to him the temple leadership who have compromised the soul of God's people. And send also the small coin, by the way, the instrument of imperial taxation. Give back to him, because to God belongs everything else. I often wonder why translate icon as head in English, rather than image, which is actually the correct translation. Because it was probably just the emperor's head on the coin, but it causes the reader in English to miss the vital connection that I believe Jesus wants us to make. God made each of us in God's image. This coin may bear Caesar's image, but you and I bear God's image. The emperor may get a few of these coins, but God invites us to give of ourselves. Rendering to Caesar what is Caesar implies that the coin an idol should be sent back to where it came from. Rendering to God what is God means only giving of ourselves. God is sovereign. Caesar is a mortal man. God is the drama of which Caesar is just a parody. For Roman listeners, they hear Jesus say that taxes should be paid. But for Jewish listeners who will immediately hear the connection of image to Genesis 1, these are fighting words about Yahweh's sovereignty over Caesar. All the readings we just have up to now are framed in the week after Palm Sunday. These are Passion readings. Jesus is engaged by the chief priests and the elders of the people as to his authority. Jesus tells them 3 parables, we just preached about the last 3 weeks. The 2 sons, the wicked tenants, and the king's son's wedding feast. The temple establishment and the Herodian, which was a political party of support of the local government, are after him. They try unsuccessfully to yank from him any semblance of authority. The job of religion was to calm the people, so they could go hungry a little more time, pay a little bit of taxes, and work from sunrise to sunset. So divine authority was critical at this particular juncture. If Jesus could prove that what he said came from God, the clergy would lose their jobs, and the Romans would treat them as useless pawns. It is critical for the institutional surviving of religion to prove themselves useful by dealing with this garden variety revolutionary on their terms, by verbally defeating him, by entrapping him, by proving to the people who had received him triumphantly just a few days before, as he was not God's son. And they failed over and over again. So Jesus' mastery of controversy forces the temple hand to change tactics and eventually deliver Jesus to the Roman authorities, because it was better for one man to die and not for all the people to suffer. All of these parables we have heard all these past Sundays are not moral fables. They are direct response of Jesus to the attempts at neutralizing him by the clergy class. These are stories of resistance. And at the end, they realize that they must create a martyr instead, because they could not beat him in his own game. And the shadow of the cross started looming larger and larger. This is my Father's world, as the hymn confirms. Even as his people are subjugated by a foreign power, or desensitized by the religious class, or sold out by political power, this is my Father's world. It is not mine, it is God's, and everything I have, everything I own, be that material possessions or intangible goods like education or prestige, are gift we have on loan. They were given to us so we could use them for the betterment of all, and not to feed our own vanity and insecurities. This is my Father's world, and our job is to care for the earth, to protect it from garbage, plant, or tree, care for our garden open to all, and ask you to join the gardening club, so our extended community had a green space to sit and be amazed at the incredible beauty of God's creation. Learn to see. We have the possibilities next door. Learn to see with our own doing how a caterpillar can become a gorgeous monarch butterfly. And learn from that, even when you think you are in prison of your own circumstances, your education or your economic status, your age, the door has always been open. The possibilities are endless if you truly believe. This is our Father's world, not the world of the rich and powerful, or the world of the famous or the smart. This is our Father's world. These are stories of resistance. Write them in your heart. Give to Caesar this puny piece of metal, because the world belongs to God.